So, you've got your eyes on the prize, and nothing is going to slow you down. You're aiming for the level cap, and you won't stop until you get there? That's a great attitude. World of Warcraft really opens up for you when you're max level. Whether you want to raid, PvP, or just play with friends. All that's standing between you and level 80 glory is, well, 80 levels.
Hi there, I'm Nox from Hexy Games. You know, the first time I leveled to 70, it actually took me over 20 days played, which is kind of embarrassing to admit out loud. But the next time I leveled, it took me less than 1/3 the time to hit 70. So how did I make such a massive improvement? Well, in my case, I actually just got really lucky. I made friends with somebody who had been playing WoW since beta, and they shared the little tips and strategies they'd come up with over the course of leveling an army of alts. It's really the sort of thing that you would figure out for yourself, but only after wasting a lot of time. So instead, in this video, I'll just share the secrets with you that help speed up my leveling over 300%.
The first thing I learned was just to use my cooldowns whenever they were available. It sounds simple enough, right? But I had this crazy idea that I should always keep them ready, just in case I suddenly really needed to use them. Even when they were only 1 or 2 minute cooldowns. Sure, they might win me a couple world PvP encounters over the whole course of leveling, but saving a few runs back to my corpse in exchange for losing days in leveling time is a lousy trade. Almost every class has at least one short-term cooldown ability that will either increase their damage or help with mana regen or survivability, allowing you to go longer without downtime to eat or drink. Both of these types of cooldowns speed up leveling time dramatically. Icy Veins, your Water Elemental, Evocation, Bestial Wrath, Dispersion, Elemental Mastery, Shamanistic Rage, Spirit Wolves, Berserk, Treants, Avenging Wrath, Bladestorm, and the list goes on. Take a moment and consider how much added damage or saved downtime these abilities add up to on the way to level 80. It's pretty mind-boggling. Go ahead and pull everything. Pop Bladestorm or Berserk. Drop a Fire Elemental totem and go nuts with Elemental Mastery. Evocate every time you can. Pop Dispersion as you move to the next group of mobs. If you're saving your cooldowns, you're costing yourself precious XP. Well, what if you're like me and you just forget to use these abilities, even if you know you should? A really easy way to keep your cooldowns on cooldown without spending too much time keeping track of them is just macro them right in with an ability that you use at the beginning of your rotation. You can do that with a macro like this. For example, as a shaman, I would use #, show tooltip, flame shock, use the name of the ability you're going to use here. Then on the next line, /cast Elemental Mastery, replace Elemental Mastery with the name of your cooldown. And on the next line, /cast Flame Shock, again the name of the ability that you want to activate the cooldown when you use it. If you use the question mark icon as the graphic for the macro, the game will automatically replace it with the image and tooltip information for the ability you've chosen to tie your cooldown to. If your cooldown is available, it will be used. But if it's on cooldown, then you'll just go on to the next part and just use the ability. So, in my example, if Elemental Mastery isn't available and I use this macro, I'll just cast Flame Shock and then I can carry on with my rotation. Something else to remember is your Hearthstone is also a cooldown. So use it as often as possible, especially when you can save yourself long runs and wasted time. If you're a shaman, you have the added bonus of Astral Recall, which is basically a second free hearth. So go ahead, use it as often as you can. One or the other will be up shortly. Something else I used to spend too much time worrying about was my gear as I leveled. I'd go out of my way running instances to get a specific drop, or finding help for a group quest that had a reward I thought I couldn't possibly function without. Never mind how much gold I spent at the auction house for low-level gear, and I wasn't even twinking. I justified all the time and gold I wasted by telling myself that the marginal stat increases I picked up would help me kill quest mobs faster. I really thought that the time I wasted picking up 1 or 2 extra points in spell power or agility would add up to a net increase in leveling speed. So, when my friend refused to waste time on inefficient quests just to pick up a reward, or head back to check the auction house every few levels, I thought he was crazy. It turns out he knew what he was talking about. Quest rewards and the occasional green item drop are more than good enough to level with. If you can pick up the bind on account items, that's great. They offer fantastic bonuses to leveling speed. But you can get to 80 at a good pace, even without them. There are a couple of exceptions to this rule, though. All of the leveling specs that we recommend here at Hexy Games are the least gear-dependent options for a class, but any melee class is going to need decent weapons. If you can only get a couple pieces of bind on account gear, make sure to pick up weapons if you're leveling a melee class. That said, if you can only get a single BOA piece, don't sacrifice the 10% bonus experience to pick up a weapon. You'll be fine with weapons you get along the way. If you can't get a BOA weapon, then do check out the auction house if you're in town anyway, and scan it for bargains appropriate to your current and next 10 or 15 levels. Make sure to choose a weapon that's appropriate to your class and your leveling spec. I'll give you some advice on how to choose weapons in my next video, which covers leveling specs. And you can get even more info on this from the Hexy Games class guides. Be sure to remember that the weapon's DPS is more important than the stats on it. I once even used the Caster Mace from Scarlet Monastery Cathedral on a rogue. There just weren't any higher DPS melee maces anywhere. The other exception is a decent DPS wand for casters. This is nowhere near as crucial as melee weapons, but you'll find if you happen to run out of mana and you've pulled a few more mobs than you anticipated, a good wand is certainly better than beating them to death with a staff. As with melee weapons, the wand's DPS is more important than the stats on the item. I used to drop everything the instant I leveled up, even walking away from half-completed quests so I could rush to the trainer. It was like Christmas, getting those new spell ranks. No matter how far away the closest city was, I was convinced that a new rank of a spell was worth spending up to 30 minutes traveling to town, and then back to my questing zone in order to train. Of course, I was wrong. You can easily go several levels without training. Just be aware of when you have an entirely new skill available to you, such as Evocation, Lava Burst, and so on. If you run into a quest that requires items purchased from the auction house, you don't need to head all the way back to town. All you need is a mailbox. Just hop on your bank alt, buy the item, and mail it to the character you're leveling. So there you go. The little things I thought I was doing to speed up my leveling were actually a huge part of what was slowing me down. Hopefully, at least you guys can learn from my mistakes and I'll feel like they were worthwhile. If you incorporate the tips in this video into a leveling strategy that uses the rest of the advice here at Hexy Games, you'll be flying towards 80. Icy's already demonstrated in a previous video why questing is far and away the best XP per hour. Using the ideas I've given you in this video will help make your questing even more efficient. But we're not done yet. Keep an eye out for the next 2 videos in this series. We'll help you choose a great leveling spec and show you how to get the absolute best XP per hour by choosing the right quests, the right quest path, and the right order in which to complete them. And remember to keep an eye on your email for even more great ideas from Hexy Games.